Hey everyone, welcome to week 6 part B. So in this part of this week we're going to talk a little bit more about strings, a little bit more about lists. We're going to talk about the difference between these two words, mutable and immutable, and we'll talk a little bit about references and what they are. Alright, so first a little bit more about strings. So you can use the Python keyword in to check and see if a sequence of characters exists within a string. So you can use this wherever you would use any statement that evaluates to true or false. So for example, you could put it inside a conditional statement like an if statement. You can do something like, hey, if pi is in this language, which is a variable that has the string Python in it, that condition right there, pi in language, will return true if that string, that subsequent string, py, is inside the string that's stored inside this variable language. So in this case, this would be true, and it would print yes. Something to keep in mind when you're using this sort of in trick with Python strings is that it is case sensitive. So for example, if I instead did if pi in language where pi had a lowercase p, that would give me a false instead, because in language that p is a capital P. So just be careful about that. It is case sensitive. You can use it with, characters, symbols, numbers, anything that's, inside of a string. You can use this in to check and see if it's in another string. Very similarly, you can use the Python keywords not in to basically check and see if it's not in the string, right? So this will return true if the substring is not in the string. So in this case, C is not in language, right? Because the language, again, is still just Python. So this will be true, which will print no. So you have in and not in, two sort of easy ways to check if something is within a string or not. There are a lot of different things you can do with strings. We're not going to have time to cover every single thing. That said, if you are interested in seeing more about strings, you can take a look at the Python docs, which I have linked to the Canvas module for this week. That said, you should take some time to read through these specific ones right here. These can also be found as a list under the notes. So take a look at these. They're mostly self-explanatory, but make sure you take a look at them. If you do have any questions about them, let me know. But you will be expected to know how these ones in particular work. Obviously, you don't have to memorize how all the string operations that are in the Python docs work, but you should know, the ones that we've talked about in the class notes, in the videos, and you should know about these as well. Again, if you have questions about it, just let me know. Alright, so let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about these two words, mutable and immutable. So let's first talk about what immutable means. Alright, so strings are what we consider to be immutable. They're immutable because the individual elements in the strings, which are characters, right? A string is a sequence of characters. So the individual elements in the string cannot be directly changed once you create the string. So what I mean by this is if you have a string, let's say in this case, for example, we have a variable named name, and in that variable we have a string, which is my name, as you can see. You cannot change, for example, the character at the 0th position in the string. So you can't do something like this. You can't say, hey, take the character at the 0th position and change it to A. This is something you cannot do with strings. And again, the reason you cannot do this is because strings are immutable, which means they cannot be changed once you create them. Now again, this just means you can't directly change them. There are ways that you can sort of manipulate strings and make a new string based on past strings. But once you create a string, you can't go in and change that exact same string. So lists, on the other hand, lists are mutable, which means they can be changed. So mutable means able to be changed. So mutable means it's something that can be changed. Immutable means something that can't be changed. So lists are mutable, which means the elements that are within a list can be directly changed. So again, what I mean by this is, let's say I have this list here. In this example, we have a list of strings. Each one of those strings happens to be a programming language, so I named the variable that's storing the list languages. So here you can see some code where I say languages square bracket 1 equals this string here, this C++ string. So what this second line is actually going to do is it will change the element at position 1 in languages, which is this list here, Python, C, Java. So it will change the element at position 1, which right now is just C, and it will change it to whatever is on the right hand side of this assignment statement here. So if I print languages, it will now print Python, C++, and Java. So this is how you can directly change an element that's in a list that's already been created. Now again, we are allowed to do this because lists are mutable. And again, you cannot do something like this, directly change an element, if it's a string. Reason being, strings are immutable. So again, strings are immutable, can't directly change elements, can't directly change the characters. Lists, on the other hand, are mutable, which means you can directly change the different elements within the list. If you have any questions about this, please do let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.